Every single day, we're bombarded by a seemingly endless stream of responsibilities. Emails that flood our inboxes, messages that demand our attention, tasks that stack up, and chores that never seem to end. It's a constant whirlwind of things to do, and at times it feels like we're drowning in all of it. The weight of these demands can leave us feeling exhausted, unable to focus, and sometimes even paralyzed by the sheer volume of it all. Lately, I've been working with an approach that I think can help ease this burden. I call it the Stateless protocol. The aim of this idea is to help reduce the overwhelm, allowing us to regain our focus and truly be present in whatever we're doing at any given moment. Let's take a little time to dive into this concept. First, I'll explain what the Stateless protocol is, and then we'll explore how you can apply it to your daily life in a practical way. In the world of computers, as I've come to understand it, most programs are designed to keep track of everything they're doing. They maintain a kind of memory or state that holds information about what's happened so far, where things are, and how various elements relate to each other. This works perfectly well for computers. They're built to juggle complex tasks and process numerous details simultaneously without getting tired. As humans, we often approach our daily lives in a similar fashion. We try to keep track of countless tasks in our heads, remembering deadlines, running mental checklists, and staying on top of a steady flow of new information. We make decisions rapidly, trying to juggle all these elements at once. The problem is that, unlike computers, our brains didn't evolve to handle such a relentless barrage of inputs. As a result, we end up feeling stressed, overwhelmed, and drained by the constant pressure. There's another way computers can operate, though, called stateless programming. In a stateless system, the program doesn't keep track of what came before. It takes one input, processes it, produces a result, and then it's done. It doesn't store information for future use or worry about what's going to come next. It simply moves on to the next task with no memory of the previous one. Every new task is approached with a clean slate, making the process simple and streamlined. For humans, an example of this can be found on a factory assembly line. Each worker has a specific role. They take a part that's been handed to them, perform their designated task on it, and then pass it along. They don't need to think about what came before their step in the process or what will happen afterward. Their focus is solely on the part in front of them at that moment. On the surface, this might seem dehumanizing, reducing a person to a mechanical cog in a larger system. But there's another perspective we can take, a more mindful, humanized version of the stateless approach. Instead of mindlessly going through the motions, imagine treating each moment as its own complete task, fully immersing yourself in it. Picture yourself creating a piece of art. In that moment, your focus is entirely on the canvas in front of you. The colors, the brushstrokes, the ideas and emotions you're expressing. You're not thinking about what came before or what you need to do later. It's just you and the canvas, right here, right now. This is what the Stateless protocol invites us to do, to be fully present in whatever we're doing, without letting the mental clutter of everything else intrude. This doesn't just apply to creative activities. It can be as simple as washing a dish. In that moment, the dishwashing is all that matters. Not the email you need to send, not the grocery shopping you're worried about, not the conversation you're anxious to have. Just wash the dish and be with that task fully. And when the dish is clean, you move on to the next thing without bringing any baggage from the previous task with you. You do your taxes without worrying about anything else. You answer one email without thinking about the rest of your inbox. You have one conversation, focusing entirely on the person in front of you. This, in essence, is the Stateless protocol. Now, this all sounds wonderful in theory, focusing on one thing at a time, being present in each moment. But the reality is, life doesn't work that way. We have countless things to do, and we can't just forget about everything else that needs our attention. The thought of ignoring the rest of our responsibilities can be anxiety-inducing in itself. You're absolutely right to point that out. We can't ignore the rest of our obligations, and that's why the Stateless protocol requires a bit of structure to make it work in our daily lives. It's not as simple as just focus on one thing. We need a system that helps us stay on top of everything, while still allowing us to give our full attention to the task at hand. Here's how we can build that structure. The first step is to have a clear and simple way of tracking everything you need to do. This is where a task manager or to-do list comes in. Personally, I use a straightforward list system. I split my list into 2 sections: tasks that need to be done today and everything else. Every task, big or small, goes on this list, whether it's grocery shopping, a workout, or replying to an email. The key here is not to overcomplicate things. Your list should be a place to capture everything you need to do, but it shouldn't become another source of stress. Once it's on the list, you don't need to think about it until it's time to tackle it. Once you have your list, the next step is to prioritize it. Every morning after my meditation, I review my task list and decide what needs to be done today. I move those items to the Today section of my list and order them by importance. What is the single most important thing I need to do today? What comes after that? Are there tasks that need to be done at specific times, like a 2 p.m. meeting? After this prioritization, the process is simple. I start with the top task and work my way down. If it's time for a meeting, I attend the meeting. When it's done, I return to my task list and pick up where I left off. The goal is to avoid overthinking and to let the prioritization guide what you do next. Each day, part of your task list might involve processing incoming messages, such as emails. For me, processing my email inbox is a regular task. When it's time to handle email, I open my inbox and deal with it one message at a time. If I can reply right away, I do. If a message requires further action, I add it to my task list for later. The same principle applies to other messaging platforms like Slack or WhatsApp. Process them in batches, address what needs attention, and move on. Sometimes you'll come across information or ideas you need to remember for later. This is where note-taking comes in. Whether you use Apple Notes, Google Docs, or another tool, the important thing is to jot down what you need to remember. If a future task requires a note, link that note to the task so you can easily access it when the time comes. With these simple elements in place, you can fully embrace the Stateless protocol. By keeping a clear queue of tasks, prioritizing them, processing incoming tasks efficiently, and taking notes when needed, you free yourself to focus entirely on the present moment. Of course, it's not just about getting things done, it's about how you do them. That's why it's important to process each task or interaction in line with your personal values. But for me, this means approaching everything with integrity, curiosity, compassion, playfulness, a sense of purpose, and a commitment to growth. When I respond to an email or engage in a conversation, I strive to do so with curiosity and compassion. When I tackle a project, I try to infuse it with playfulness and purpose. These values guide how I handle each moment. In the end, the Stateless protocol is about fully immersing yourself in one task at a time, while also making sure your life aligns with your values. It's a mindful way of living, one that reduces the mental clutter and allows you to be present, engaged, and at peace with whatever's in front of you. It's not just a method for managing tasks. It's a way of approaching life with a sense of simplicity, clarity, and grace. And for me, it's one of the most beautiful and effective ways I've found to navigate the complexities of modern life.